Hello there. What's going on, everybody? Today we're sitting down with Justin Jacobson from Restoration Games to talk about the company and a game that you may have seen me review called Unmatched. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Be sure to check links in the description for more information as well as ways to support the channel. Also, big thanks to Justin for sitting down with us today. Let's jump right into the interview. All right, so we're sitting down with Justin Jacobson. Justin, thank you so much for sitting down with and talking with me today. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Busy as ever. So
Awesome. So you are the president at Restoration Games. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe your background and about Restoration Games as a company?
sure. I actually am an attorney. I practiced for 20 years doing civil litigation, appellate work, things like that. And I really got burnt out on it. But also at the same time, I've always been a gamer since I was a kid. My dad and my uncle were very big gamers. They used to play war games and they were on that first Euro wave when it came over. They were one of the first people to get Catan, when no one knew what that was, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And so I had three cousins too. And so we all started playing games as well, and Dungeons and Dragons and all these games and everything. And so I've been a gamer my whole life. And so even when I was an attorney, I used to go to, for example, I used to go to Gen Con every year and put on a legal Q&A seminar. And that was a way to write off as a business trip. I used to pick up clients. I used to do pro bono work for a lot of people, and I still do for people in the gaming field. And it was just sort of a good way to merge the two, and my hobby and my job. And one time after one of these legal Q&As, a nice young woman came up to me and said her husband was getting ready to leave Hasbro, and could they take me to dinner? They had some questions. It was Rob Daviau's wife, Lindsay, who also worked at Hasbro. She's a great production. She's our production superhero. And we had a very nice dinner, and he had recently designed Risk Legacy and was getting ready to leave Hasbro and had some ideas about and questions about what he could do with that legacy mechanic when he left, and opportunities for trademarks or licensing or things like that. And ever since then, I've been Rob's lawyer essentially, at least in terms of reviewing his contracts and things like that, for license for game design and things like that. And so I've known him for a few years, and I also, sort of as a side thing, I also like to do some game design on my own. I'm not what you'd call like a traditional game designer. My roots are in Dungeons and Dragons, to the extent that I was the DM, always coming up with the dungeons and creating monsters and things like that. But then when third edition rolled around with the open game license, I actually did quite a bit of self-publishing for that.
Okay.
And I had a company called Blue Devil Games, and we used to do supplements for Dungeons and Dragons. And I used to like to design games like that. So I always enjoyed that, even though I couldn't do it full time because I was an attorney. And then Kickstarter came along, of course, and sort of made it possible to do games even if it wasn't your full-time job. And I had this wild idea one time, I forget what I was, but somebody was talking about one of their Grail games, and they were specifically talking about Star Wars Queen's Gambit. So,
oh yeah,
appropriate for this channel.
Yeah, I do remember that. I haven't actually ever been able to play that one, but
oh
but
man,
it's been one that it's been tried to get to the table multiple times.
It's very much a treat. It's it's an experience game, and it's a lot of fun to play too. It's got a lot of parts to it and everything, but it's a lot of fun to play as a game as well. But it's a lot of people's Grail games, and it's very expensive now. And I just had this idea. Well, what if you brought it back? Obviously, you wouldn't be able to get the Star Wars license, but you could retheme it either to other science fiction or something else. Like I even at one point had dreams of doing a James Bond version of it. Getting a license for James Bond and doing that. But in any case, Rob was actually a co-designer on that game with Craig Van Ness. And I spoke to Rob and I said, I got this weird idea. And he was like, well, that's not a great game to do for a number of reasons. But we just had started up this conversation about games that we played when we were kids. And we talked about some of those shared games and like, oh, people would love that game. Or, what would you do if you were remaking that game today? And that's sort of where the idea came from. And it seemed like a lark at first, but I sort of couldn't let it go. And like I said, by that time I was getting a little burnt out practicing law. And it was also just a good opportunity to sell my practice and sort of take the leap. And I basically made Rob an offer he couldn't refuse. I said, look, let's try this out. No real downside, no risk for you other than obviously the time and commitment and effort, which he's put in quite a bit. But at the same time, like, you can still design other games, you can do your stuff you're working on, it's not exclusive or anything like that. And I figured, let's try it for like a year or 2 years, see if it works, see if we can make it viable, if it's a good idea, if people are resonating with that idea the same way we are.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, no harm, no foul. You can obviously go back to being a, legendary game designer. And it worked. It worked. Fundamentally, I think it was just that idea of taking these old games that are out of print. We're looking at games from 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, that sort of thing, into the early 2000s, obviously with Epic Duels. But it started out as games we remembered, and like games that other people remembered from their childhood. Now they're grown up. Now they're gamers. They have modern gamer sensibilities. They want to play that game and relive that game and maybe introduce it to their kids, but they also want it to be in keeping with today's modern game design, sensibilities. Right. So that's the crux of the company, is we take these old games, we modernize them, bring them back for people to enjoy that experience again in a way that they're also getting a good modern game out of it that they can play and have a good experience, whether it's with their friends or their family or whatever it is.
Awesome. Now you guys have done some stuff with Kickstarter. I know we talked a little bit. You had Return to Dark Tower. That's been really successful. Can you tell us a little bit about like how Kickstarter has been for you guys, and like what's your experience with that?
Right. Like I said, that was quite a bit of a game changer, just in terms of making it viable. Mm-hmm. I was fortunate that I was able to sell my practice, and so I did have some startup capital. But also, just starting a company is a big production, and there's a lot of time in between, especially like a game design company, where there's, you take a year basically. From the time you have your idea of what game you're going to do till it hits market, easily a year, if not longer. In case of Dark Tower, several years, that kind of thing. So we started working on it in 2016. Our first games didn't come out till Gen Con of 2017. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things we did, though, one of our first 3 offerings was Stop Thief. Mm-hmm. And we decided to do a Kickstarter for that as well, because the main advantage, and sort of at least the stated main reason for Kickstarter, is to give people the capital that they can bring these dreams to fruition and have all these people share in their dreams. You're building a community. Those were all things that we were looking for. And so it was a really good fit. Stop Thief, we thought, was a good title. It wasn't the biggest title in the world, but we knew there were plenty of people out there who did remember it. I played it when I was a kid. Rob did as well. Mm-hmm. And we also thought it's a good one because we can showcase the concept. Like, the old one had this dedicated plastic phone that had LED lights and 8-bit sounds and things like that.
Okay.
They said, well, when we redo that game, we can just make a companion app and you can have it on your phone. And it can be much more powerful than what you had back then. But the gameplay, the experience would be the similar. So the Kickstarter was very successful. It gave us capital we needed to carry us through that first year, get those games out. They were all pretty good hits. Stop Thief has been a steady seller for us. Downforce was a big hit and continues to sell well. We've got a couple of expansions for that. So that first Kickstarter was really important for us. And then since then, it's a big production. Running a Kickstarter is like running a second company. And it starts long before you actually run the Kickstarter, and it continues long after the campaign is over.
It seems like it's very involved from even from the outsider's perspective. So I can only imagine like trying to actually run one, and I don't know. Like, I'm a single person operation. I once in a while I've thought about like, what if I wanted to design my own game, and and after talking to a couple of people, and I'm like, not without like a lot of help. Not without a lot.
Yeah, you have to have a plan. Like, you have to have a plan. For sure. Whatever that plan might be, you have to have a plan.
Hope is not a plan.
But so for us, Kickstarter is good. Mm-hmm. It's important. What really became is the next Kickstarter we did was Fireball Island, which was incredibly successful.
Oh, yeah.
Again, had to do it, though, just because the production, the development costs on it, the production, the unit cost just to make that game so much higher than just like, if you're putting out a $40 Euro game, mm-hmm. you should be able to manage that if you have an ongoing concern, And then the one we most recently did was Return to Dark Tower. Same thing, massive success. Very excited, very happy about that. But we couldn't have done the game without Kickstarter. There's just no way. I mean,
Right.
that game is almost like a video game. We've literally got a team of 24 people,
Wow.
engineers and app developers and 3D modelers, and it reads like the credits to that game read like the credits to a AAA video game practically.
Wow. That's what you wouldn't even realize that a board game that has that many, that much help and that many people working on it. That's pretty.
And then obviously it's a big. I mean, that one's $150 MSRP. It was a little cheaper than the Kickstarter if you backed it, but again, it's a huge risk if you say, oh, we'll make this $150 game and just put it in the market and see how it does. That's pretty risky. So this helped us mitigate that risk. So Kickstarter is something we're definitely will use in the right situation. We're not. I mean, I know there are companies that use it for every other game they do. I don't begrudge them that. There's other benefits in terms of community building and gauging demand and all sorts of things like that are a little more mundane for us, because the work that goes into the big ones, we're much more like, let's just do it for the big ones and do a traditional model for the sort of regular games, if you will.
Sure, and I think it kind of gives you a good gauge of interest too, because if it turns out nobody's interested in this game, you're going to get immediate feedback on that and can say, you know what, on second thought, let's not do that. Yeah. You'd hate to go to retail and and do that. Now, moving to retail, we had a game that really, really struck a chord with me, and that's Unmatched. And I'd love to talk Unmatched with you a little bit, because Unmatched is more than just a game. It's like a whole system. Yeah. And for those of you watching at home, Star Wars gaming fans of the past, if you remember a game I've talked about in lots of videos, we've done historical videos, we've done Star Wars gaming videos, talking about everything that's not the current games. Epic Duels always comes up, and it was this awesome game put out after episode 2, so it didn't even have the episode 3 stuff in there, and it became a grail game for a lot of people. And I almost had a bid, on like an auction site a long time ago to get one in like near mint condition, and I missed it, and I regretted it ever since. And then along came one of my viewers actually pointed out to me. They said, you should check out Unmatched. And I'm like, that sounds familiar. I think I saw a sign for Unmatched at Gen Con. And, but I just didn't have enough time at the, that particular,
Sure.
I think this was maybe 2018 when, was that when Unmatched came out?
2019. It came out last year, Gen Con last year.
Okay, it was last year then. I'm getting my years mixed up.
I know, it's pandemic time.
It does seem like last year was about 5 years ago, to be fair.
Yes.
But yeah, I remember seeing the Bruce Lee up there, and one of my things is I'm a big nunchuck advocate, so I'm a big fan of particularly lightsaber nunchucks, but I don't think those exist in a game yet. But if they did, I'd be all for it. But yeah, so then I looked into Unmatched, and you guys actually sent me out some to take a look at, and I'd say I instantly fell in love with this game. So I've got a couple of questions about Unmatched.
Sure.
And I guess
feel like I should interject here and mention,
yes.
I own a pair of nunchucks as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I got it as my cousins gave it to me as a birthday gift one year when I was like 12 or something. My mom freaked out. But I've had them ever since. They're kind of fun to play around with. So small world.
I whack myself in the head. I try not to. It's funny because I feel like one day, for as many years as I've been, boasting like the nunchuck thing, somebody's gonna come up to me and be like, "All right, let me see what you got," and I'm gonna be like, and I'm really gonna fail to impress them with my. So I'm like, every once in a while when I can get the kids like occupied, I'll go out and practice a little bit, and I'm like, I'm terrible, absolutely.
Yeah,
terrible.
That's the thing about them, right? Is when you fail, there's only spectacular failures. There's no like small goofs.
Yeah.
When you're doing it.
Yeah, it's and they take up a lot more space than they seem, right? You don't think you'd need that much space,
yeah.
but you start, you're gonna knock something, you're gonna break a lot of stuff. So Epic Duels, great, great kind of skirmish, free for all battle kind of format. Unmatched kind of use that system, but it's not a Star Wars licensed thing. So like, I guess kind of walk us through like what kind of inspired the what was the process like for creating Unmatched?
Sure. Well, we've gotten requests. So let's take it one step back and say, if you go to my website right now, restorationgames.com, at the very top, since the very beginning, since the first day we launched, there's a small form up there, and it says, "What game do you want us to bring back and why?"
Right.
And so we take these requests from fans, and it's one of the best parts of my job. I love, we get all these weird requests. Sometimes it's silly stuff. Sometimes it's, we get a lot of, there's, Hero Quest requests and Thunder Road and some of these other ones that are still out there. And then also sometimes I get some nice stories about, oh, I used to play this with my dad, but now I would like to play with my kids and things like that, or something really quirky about a game where it's a game I've never heard of, which is always exciting to be surprised about that, at this stage. But certainly, Epic Duels was one we got a lot of requests for, but also one that we get a ton of requests for was Hero Escape.
Oh yeah,
So Epic Duels was essentially a precursor to Hero Escape. And they just sort of Hero Escape is another one of those like lifestyle games though, right? Where you collect all the terrain, and people who have it have like bins and bins of it. I know Tom Vassell of the Dice Towers.
I think it's his number one game of all time right now, or something like that.
Yeah, it's certainly up there. He's got this huge collection, and so that's really cool. But we knew we certainly couldn't do that for a number of reasons, and certainly not out of the gate. So we sort of took a second look at Epic Duels, and so that seems like a really, not only was it a fun game, but the parts of it that were fun were things that we could leverage. And also, so it was an entry-level skirmish game. Like it was a game that two kids, brother and sister, could play on a Saturday by themselves, without mom and dad or whatever, and have fun with it. So, and there's not a lot of that out there in terms of like entry-level skirmish games. When you talk about miniatures games and things like that, usually they start skewing a little older.
Right.
So we thought it was at least a good opportunity, like that there would be some demand for it in general. And we knew we couldn't get the Star Wars license, certainly not to start with. And we said, what is it that people liked about it? They liked the mashup, right? Like they liked the fact that the original game had a ton of characters. I don't remember, it was like 18 heroes or something
crazy, yeah.
A ton.
Because it mixed all the eras together too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could have like Yoda versus Han Solo if you wanted to. Like, why would you do that? That's just wrong. But you could. And whatever it was. And so there was that mashup feature that people liked. And we said, well, okay, if we can't do Star Wars, like the next best thing is let's really lean into that and make all these disparate heroes and really interesting figures from history and myth and literature. And we said we'd like to get some licensed stuff in there as well. So we were fortunate in, this was now going back to 2018 at Gen Con. We, friends with people over at Mondo, always loved their work. One of the things we've always prided ourselves on is really great visuals and art and attention to graphic design and their stuff. I mean, it's amazing. Like their posters and vinyl and their games and things like that, always just amazing. So it was sort of a good fit in terms of aesthetics. And they were doing some games. And so we just started talking. And the last day of Gen Con, after everyone tore down, we went to dinner and then we played the game with them, and they were like instantly in love with it. And so that's where the idea for the team up came, where we could do these public domain heroes and sets, and they have a ton of licenses and experience with licensing, so they could get different licenses, and then we could sort of introduce this line. And that's where it started.
No, that's awesome. It's taken us to a really great place, because right now you can get you can get dinosaurs versus King Arthur, versus the Invisible Man, and like it's just everything. It's kind of all over the place. So you kind of jumped from Star Wars into this combination of history and mythology, and so I feel like you have a really good kind of wide open area in which to add. Now you guys have had a couple of expansions, and I feel like Volume 1 is almost like a core game, right? Battle of Legends Volume. It's like kind of almost like the core set, or do you guys kind of call that a core set at all, or because it's a good starting place, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't sure because we didn't know what people would really be interested in. So we launched with the Battle of Legends Volume 2, which is a 4-pack of 4 completely unrelated heroes. And then we also had the 2-pack, Robin Hood versus Bigfoot. And we wanted to launch them at the same time, and also Bruce was our solo pack. So we wanted to get a license set in there, and then we wanted to see do people like 2-packs because they're a little cheaper? Do people like the 4-packs because there's more heroes they can mix and match? How would people take to a solo pack? It doesn't come with a board. And it turns out people love Unmatched, so it doesn't really matter what we do with it. Yeah. They're all selling very well. We're very excited about it. It's been received well. So short version is, and then we did Cobble and Fog, which was a 4-pack, but it was themed. So they were different. They weren't all from the same IP, but they did share a common theme. And that seemed to resonate really well. People have been really excited about that one.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten to play that one yet, so I haven't. Yeah. I think that's the only set I don't have right now, because you guys hooked me, and I just picked up the Jurassic Park one, which is amazing. But we'll talk more about that in a minute.
Yeah. So in a sense, Battle of Legends is a core set, or Robin Hood versus Big Fig. They're both standalone, and it really depends if you want the 2 or the 4. In that they're relatively straightforward. So it turns out Arthur's a little bit more complicated to play than we anticipated. So he's a little bit more of an advanced character. So we always thought that Battle of Legends Volume 1 would be very straightforward, whereas Cobble and Fog, the heroes are very different. Very different play styles. Okay. And so that's something that moving forward, we're keeping an eye on. Is this set that we're doing an unannounced 2-pack coming. We're basically right at the holidays this year.
Oh, that's exciting.
And we just released a little snippet of art and people making guesses, which is interesting to see. But that's definitely more of an advanced. Those packs are a little bit more intricate to play, a little bit more, I wouldn't say challenging, but they'll be more interesting to gamers who are really interested in figuring out how to make a deck work. So we think that'll be fun. Whereas something like Buffy, they're different. The heroes are very different, but they're a little bit more straightforward because that could well be somebody's first set.
Right.
Now, if somebody's a big Buffy fan, like somebody's a big Jurassic Park fan or whatever, that might be their first set because they see it as a Buffy game and not as the next edition of Unmatched. So it's something we're always keeping an eye on. I've mentioned this elsewhere. We have a massive license that we sorted out through Mondo. It was a kind of amazing job. Tim Weish over there does their licensing and is a huge Unmatched fan, and he put a lot of work in on this. So we got this big announcement we haven't made yet.
Oh.
It's not coming till later, much later.
I would say you could make it right here, right now. You could.
Listen.
It's all right.
No. The funny thing is, I'm the biggest blabbermouth on the team, but I would be disappeared if I said anything. So. We have this, so that one we know is going to be people's first entry to it because it's such a big license. So we know people are going to see that and say, "Oh, that's a cool, blank game. I want to try that out."
Right.
And so we have to make sure that someone just touching Unmatched for the first time can pick up those decks and have fun with it, as opposed to Battle of Legends Volume 2, also coming out next year. That's going to be nobody's first set. Nobody picks up a Volume 2 and say, "Hey, I think this is the first thing of this series I will get."
Right.
So those, again, are more complicated, a little more intricate, a little more complex, not complicated, but complex to master. So that's something that we're always keeping an eye on. And so it's fun. It makes it fun.
Absolutely. So I would you say that having a volume numbering system kind of on the packaging kind of gives you license to just make more advanced and a heavier rule set for these characters? While also making them fully compatible with everything else, because every set that at least that I know of that's announced right now is fully compatible with everything else, correct?
Yeah, that's definitely a core feature of the system, something we're committed to.
Okay.
We can't always advertise the fact that certain sets are compatible with others, but as a general matter, every Unmatched set is compatible with anything else. And that's something we always win. So testing has gotten interesting now because we have so many decks. So we're when we go to play test these new decks, we have a lot more play testing to do to see if there's any broken combos or things like that. And we're not striving for 50-50. We don't want every deck to be equally good against every other deck. That would be pretty bland.
Right.
We think some of the fun is in finding good matchups. Like, oh, you're going to play Invisible Man. Oh, well, guess what? I'm going to play Bruce Lee, and I know he's really good against Invisible. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Right. No, I see what you're
something
saying.
like that.
When looking at so like the Jurassic Park expansion, or the first, I should say, Jurassic Park expansion, InGen versus Raptors, looking through that, I'm like, I think this matchup would be really, really hard on the Raptors, but I think this one would be like, this would be a really good one, and so it's nice to kind of see those pan out, especially for a game that's not, it doesn't strike me as like hyper competitive, tournament rules lawyering and like thick rule book. It's more of a light play for fun kind of game. And I love that idea that you can just say, hey, I want to see how well this guy does against this one, or a team, because you can play this in teams, and love that. I guess
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I guess I was kind of building towards a question here, but I think I've wandered off topic a little bit. So don't let me take too far off track. But I kind of wanted to ask you a question about when it comes to compatibility.
Sure.
Have you, like, in playtesting or whatever, and I understand like the rules have changed a little bit, but have you ever tried to take like a character from Star Wars Epic Duels versus an Unmatched character, and like, do you think somebody could, like, if they wanted to like homebrew their own game, like how, like, are they balanced against each other at all, or is that something you've ever tried? Or if you're not allowed to talk about that, we can totally skip the question too.
No, I mean, if they are, it would be incidental or accidental. Yeah, that's not something we've ever tested.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's some basic issue. Like, for example, like, right? The heroes in Epic Duels don't have movement values. Like, you could just give everyone a 2 and be pretty straightforward, that sort of thing. But I'm guessing you could, like, kludge something together. I don't remember like the deck sizes, but I think they're pretty close. And I don't remember the health totals, but I think they're pretty close. Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I even looked at Epic Duels, honestly.
I would imagine, like, especially if it was inspired by the other, like, there's probably at least some degree, if you're willing to kind of just have some fun with it and not take yourself too seriously, I'm sure you could probably make it work for I have a friend, so I don't even have Epic Duels. I have a friend who has, and once quarantine and everything, and all of this is over with, I might try and see if I can like set something like that, like put them to the test, like get them both on the tabletop. I think that'd be a fun. Or at the same time, I wonder if some fancy people with a lot of time on their hands would come together with some conversions. Like, hey, if you want to run Darth Maul, here's some PDFs of like cards that would be compatible with Unmatched, and here's a deck on how to run.
I mean, that's one of the things I've been most excited about is the fan community. Like I said, it's been very well received, and I mean that in terms of sales, but also in terms of community. Mm-hmm. Has been great. So we knew that Epic Duels had a really strong community. Like, there were super fans who were making their own decks and things like that, and we wanted to tap into that. I feel like we've done it. Like, it wasn't accidental. We worked hard to make that happen. Probably should go ahead and plug now. We have our own Discord server.
Okay.
Restoration Games Discord server, and we have a few dedicated Unmatched channels on there for people making their own decks and playing on TTS. There's a free module on Tabletop Simulator as well. So if people want to give out the game a try, they can go on Tabletop Simulator and give it a try for free.
We can put a link down in the description below if you want to. Yeah, so we'll do that. We'll do that. Check out the link. Check out the description below.
Yeah. So I know. So one of the fans, Jonathan Gruberman, I'm blanking right now, did a website where he has a fan deck creator, and you basically enter the data, and it'll create a PDF that looks really nice that you can then print out or upload to TTS and play. And I know, for example, there's a Mandalorian fan deck, which was pretty cool.
That sounds great.
The Baby Yoda sidekick. And I know a lot of people are doing it. So certainly if somebody wanted to do it, they could. And there's a lot of tools out there to do that. Yeah, I mean, the big change was, for example, movement, line of sight were the two big changes that we made, in addition to sort of tweaking the overall sort of action economy or whatever. But movement used to roll a die, and that was, always problematic. If you rolled low, you were in big trouble, that kind of thing. And the line of sight was super weird. Like if you're a ranged fighter and you're in the same line as someone, and then if I take like one step over, all of a sudden you can't see me.
Yeah.
So, we had always, Sam Healy, formerly of the Dice Tower, had always talked about the Tannhauser line of sight system as being a great system, and he wished someone brought it back, and I've been listening to Dice Tower for years. just had it in the back of my head, and we were trying to figure something out. I was like, what if we just gave this a try and see if that, sorted it out? And it like clicked into place. It really was the perfect level, the perfect weight for what we were going for. We wanted a quick game. We wanted a quick skirmish game that you could take out your deck, put your guy down, start playing, get a 20-minute game. You don't no tables to look up, nothing to measure, that sort of thing. Like those games are fine. I'm not no
Sure.
complaints there, but it's not what
Sometimes
this
you're in
game.
the mood for something quick, or a
Yeah, it's not what this
pre-game
game is supposed
before
to.
your big game, or a quick game for after your big game. Yeah,
Yeah,
or just a whole night full of lots
sure.
of short games. And like that's. So speaking of, you mentioned fan design stuff, which is actually a really good point, because you guys are running a contest right now, right? A fan design contest. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was born by the response that we got when we started seeing all these fan decks pop up, and we were like, what if we had a set that was designed by the fans, because some of these decks are really well done and well thought out, and people are clearly putting a lot of energy into it. So we thought, why not?
Mhm.
Let's see if we get any entries for it, and we have about 100 entries now.
Oh, nice.
So, and there's still a month left. So we're like, ooh, boy, we just gave ourselves a lot of work.
Yeah, because now you got to sift
But
through all of this.
yeah, it's been great to see again. So obviously we're seeing some. And one of the things we were excited to do is getting different perspectives, not just in terms of like our team versus people outside the team, but also, candidly, our team is a bunch of middle-aged white men,
Mhm.
and diversity is always something we've cared about,
Yeah.
and so we've always been looking to have other designers and artists from diverse cultures and ethnicities and genders and things like that. So we figured we would open this design contest up and see, encourage people to enter, just give it a try if you're at all interested in the game. And we've gotten some great decks from all different types of people. And like it's been exciting because we've gotten decks that are things that we probably wouldn't have come up with on our own,
Mhm.
both in terms of like the heroes that people are picking and some of the mechanics or concepts that they're doing. Very interesting stuff. So it's exciting. And we'll be closing that contest and then probably getting to work on weeding them out and then getting to work on developing those decks with an eye towards releasing them. I think we're shooting for 2022.
So,
One.
wow. So you guys have a pretty far kind of blueprint ahead as far as There's definitely like, what kind of future do you have planned for Unmatched right now? It seems like it's going pretty
Yeah.
far out.
It takes us a good solid year
Mhm.
from like when we develop the set to when we release it. And that's for unlicensed sets. When you talk about licensed sets, you have to throw in time for licensor approval and
Mhm.
redos and things like that. So, for example, we had Jurassic Park Engine versus Raptors. We have Jurassic Park Sattler versus T-Rex, which is supposed to be on the way, but we've had a few rounds and things like that, and it's looking great. I'm very excited about it, but it's obviously taking a little bit longer than we wanted, but it'll be out there soon. So yeah, it can take a while. So we want to make sure that we're not either flooding, we don't want to release three at once. We're not trying to, do a quick cash grab and call it a day. And we also don't want people having to wait like 6 months or 8 months or 10 months between sets. Both we think people we don't want people losing interest, but we also want to reward those fans who are excited about it, and
Mhm.
it feels like a good cycle if we can get one a quarter is sort of what we're shooting for,
Okay.
with maybe like an extra 2-pack in here or an extra solo pack there, that sort of thing.
Nice.
So yeah, that's that. We have it planned out certainly through 2021 and some ideas for 2022. So it's something we are thinking about, and we're actually looking to plan a little bit even further down the line and talking about doing like almost a full roster, like plan out the whole roster, so we have an idea, just to stay organized with it.
Sure. Now, I'm sure with all these fan submissions too, you're gonna have lots more ideas beyond, heck, beyond the scope of just what gets submitted. I'm sure it probably is gonna steer you guys in some new directions you might not have considered before as well, which is probably one of the extra benefits of hosting a contest like this. I want to talk about something else about Unmatched, which is something I wish more companies did, and that's like when you open the box, you have, honestly, my hat is off to you. If I wore a hat, it would be off to you. My baby Yoda is off to you. There he is. To the insert, the organizers you have inside these games, and I've said it in all of my reviews. Most recently, just the Engine versus Raptors review. It's the most efficient and easy and organized way to store components and have them readily available. Like, who came up with that? Is that just a collaborative thing, or you know?
Uh, yeah, so thank you, first of all. And sort of we wanted it to be a deluxe sort of looking experience. And so we knew we wanted some sort of insert that was well organized. And I have to give most of the credit to our manufacturer, Panda Manufacturing. Have been an amazing partner. We've worked with them since we started the company on almost all of our productions. And they have a great in-house team who works with us to design these inserts, not just for this game, but we started doing it for some of our other games. So oftentimes you don't need that kind of insert, depending on the type of game. Like Stop Thief is a pack of cards and a board and some meeples. It's not a big deal. But here because the decks are all modular, you want sort of everything in its own place. And like I said, we worked on it together. It was a bit of a group effort, but then we've refined it over a few of the sets where we keep getting a little bit better at it. Like we made the finger holes a little bigger to get the tokens out for some of the ones that have been coming out, things like that. But I think mostly credit has to go to Panda. They've been a great partner for us.
Awesome. Now, do you have a favorite character out of everything that's out so far to play? Like, who's your go-to?
I do. It's funny. I've designed a few of the decks, and certainly it's mostly like very much a group effort. Even if we call it drafting the deck, right? Like you do the first draft, and then obviously the whole team gets in and we start tweaking. It would be remiss. Obviously Rob Davio I've mentioned, but Brian Neff and Noah Cohen are our two full-time developers and designers, and they've really sort of taken the bull by the horns as far as Unmatched goes, and they're brought a level of expertise to the line that's really helped as we move forward into getting all these sets ready and things like that. But when I found out we were doing Bruce Lee, I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. And I said, listen, I'm doing this deck. So thank you very much, but I'm doing this deck.
Okay.
And
he's my favorite as well. But I'll be honest with you, I haven't won with him yet, but he seems like I just have to master him. I need more practice. And then this pandemic hits and just makes it so much harder to get games in and stuff. And so I just have to be patient and try and play with the kids. But the good thing is that I can actually play this with the kids. I really like, and Bruce Lee brings up an interesting point with another thing about this game that's beyond just the insert, but just the design of like the art style is absolutely incredible with this. Not just the sculpts, not just all the little details. There's an incredible amount of attention to detail to this game, like the color palettes and how everything about a certain character is instantly recognizable even from a distance. That's incredible. And I don't even really have a question about it other than to say, like, keep doing it. Like,
this will give me a good opportunity to mention some other people on the team.
Okay, so, excellent.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, working with Mondo, they have those same level standards for the visual presentation. They've opened up some doors for us for some artists. So Oliver Barrett did a lot of the art for the initial sets and some other sets coming up. He was amazing. And then Heather Vaughn is doing the Buffy set, and we've got some other people. But working with those artists, who are often, most of them, outside of the board game hobby, gives it sort of a fresh look. We always said every card was a poster and every deck was a gallery. And that was sort of the approach we took. We didn't want it to be like a card game and you're doing card art for the card games. We wanted them to be pieces of art. But then also things like the card backs, like Jason Taylor, our graphic design wizard, he does all the card backs, and they're amazing. And then Lindsay takes those and she turns them into health dials, and they're like, oh, those are amazing too. Or Jason will do that. Things like the way we laid out the cards. I know Jason and Lindsay worked, and Jay Shaw, who was formerly at Mondo, he's not there anymore, but they worked for a long time to get that card frame down just right. things like that. So, like I said, it's a whole team effort for sure, top to bottom, between Mondo and Restoration, and I appreciate it. It's nice to hear, and we've heard a
No,
lot of nice things.
it's something that I think is a lot of people can overlook in games, and considering that a lot of the games that I do cover, I'm big about the visuals. I'm big about the table presence, and the card art. Especially being a Star Wars fan, a lot of the art that's on the Star Wars cards is contracted out through great artists and stuff, and so I'm always looking at that art, and these are beautiful. You've even gone so far as to beyond just the cards, which are, like you were right, each one is a poster, but the minis also are sculpted beautifully. But on top of just a beautiful sculpt, they're pre-shaded, right?
Yeah.
That had to have been a choice, right? Because somebody, I'm sure that I imagine there must have been an argument. It's like, do we need to do that extra step? And whoever made the call to do that extra step, it counts because it really looks great. So I don't know. And again, it's not so much a question as it is just a point of, like, for anybody else who's watching. I've got reviews of most of the sets so far. The minis are great. The rings on the bases match up to the colors. Everything about from pulling the box out, the art on the outside of the box to opening them up. It's all perfect. I could not have. I don't think I could have asked for a better sequel to Epic Duels, short of having the Star Wars license itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one day, you never know.
You keep doing well enough, you might have them
Yeah.
knocking at your door. I'm like, hey, can we get in on this?
There you go.
That would be something. All right, so let's see. All right, so what's next in the line for Unmatched? I know you mentioned the T-Rex and Sadler. I know in the back of the Raptor book there was like some more Jurassic Parks sets coming. So I guess that's one. Anything else that you can share with us?
Yeah. So next up is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That is a
Nice.
4-pack that's coming out in Q4, I guess. We're shooting for October. We'll see when it finally gets out there. Certainly by November it should be out, barring anything catastrophic. We just revealed the cover on that, so we know the 4 heroes are Buffy, Angel, Spike, and Willow.
All right.
And a little surprise in there is we actually have. I don't know, maybe I didn't mention this yet anywhere, but we have. There's more fighters in that set than there are in any other set we've released to date. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
More named fighters. I don't know. I'm getting off base here.
Sure.
We
No,
have
no
a 2-pack that we have not announced yet. We're waiting. We want to give each set its time in the spotlight, so we're not going to announce the 2-pack till after Buffy comes out. Amazing art on this, though. It's a new artist. It's a fun set. So the 2-packs we like to do sort of cheeky juxtapositions. Like Robin Hood versus Bigfoot. We thought was kind of clever.
Mm-hmm.
This one I think is even better. So we're excited about that. And like I said, the decks are a little bit more, I don't want to say advanced, but a little bit more meat on the bone. Let's put it that way.
A little more strategic.
We do have,
Yeah.
what's that?
A little more strategic, perhaps. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You can play them on a superficial level, but you're going to have trouble with it if you don't really pay attention to it.
Okay.
Then we do have Sattler versus T-Rex coming. It's just a question of when. So at this point, it's looking like Q1 next year. We're pretty optimistic that we'll be able to hit that date. We did have a Grant deck that we had mentioned, but we decided that the solo packs weren't the way to go for those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce has sold well, but he's obviously more a solo hero.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly we're open to doing more Jurassic Park sets, including Grant and some of the other heroes and dinosaurs and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of a wait and see till we see how the other sets go and how the licensing is working out and all that. So nothing more to report there.
Okay.
Then, like I said, next year we have a huge license. I don't know when we're going to announce it, but when we are, I'm going to be very excited. Then we're also doing Battle of Legends Volume 2, which will have 4 completely unrelated heroes. But there's some really cool decks in there. A couple of really cool heroes people will be interested in, and a couple probably lesser known heroes that I'm excited for people to learn about. We sort of did a lot of deep research on some interesting fighters of legend and myth, and found some of these, and they're interesting. And then the board also for that one is coming along nicely as well. That should be fun too. So then we have beyond that, we obviously have the deck design contest. We've got a few more things we're working on, but that's about all we have
Okay.
officially slated right now. And then in addition to the Unmatched, obviously we have Return to Dark Tower. Should be coming out obviously next year. I don't know exactly when yet. We'll know more when we get through manufacturing. Key to the Kingdom is coming out next year. That's a game that we've been working on that a lot of people are requesting, and it's a fun one. It's a little bit more of a lighter one. So if Return to Dark Tower is our Lord of the Rings, Key to the Kingdom is our Princess Bride, if you will.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Good
Sort
reference
of
there.
the
Yeah.
weight and feel of it. And then we've got a couple more games, a couple smaller games that we'll be bringing out, and some other stuff. So we're excited to keep on bringing stuff out for everybody.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to it. Well, I think before I wrap everything up, I have one question for you, and if you can't answer, that's okay. But it's about the T-Rex because like I look at all the size of these fighters and like how they're all on a base and they're all on they take up one circle on all of these boards. There's no way Bruce Lee can be the same size as a T-Rex. So can you spoil anything about how the T-Rex is going to move around the board at all? Is he just going to be on a
Sure.
standard base or?
I think, yeah, no, I can do a little bit of spoilage there, absolutely. And
Okay.
we haven't really talked about it much. So if you've noticed in the Jurassic Park Engine versus Raptor set and in Cobble and Fog, we talk about large fighters. So large fighters are unaffected by the one-way paths and Engine versus Raptors on the board there.
Mm-hmm.
And on the Baskerville Manor board in Cobble and Fog, there's secret passages that the large fighters cannot go through. And everybody's like, well, is Bigfoot large? Is Alice large when she's big? No. The answer is you're not large unless we say you're large. And the only large fighter that we have so far, we don't have any plans for any other large fighters, although we certainly have the design space now, is our T-Rex. And what that really does mean is it has essentially a double wide base or double length base.
Okay.
So it essentially takes up two spaces. Not always, it depends on the board and the spacing and whatnot. But basically, being large means you can take up two spaces, you can start moving from either space, you can attack from either space. There's a little bit more to it than that, but that's the
Okay.
gist of it. It is twice as the base is well 3 times as long because it's essentially
It's got the blanket space in between
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
And it is a very impressive sight to see the T-Rex miniature on the board with whether it's Bruce Lee or King Arthur or who even Bigfoot looks small next to the T-Rex. So
I think that's a good that makes it a good time for some team up battles like two versus one or see maybe some alliances in the middle of a big 4-player free for all and see who betrays who in the middle of the game. No,
well, it's fun trying to design a T-Rex deck that's competitive and balanced is interesting. So she's got more health than any other fighter we've done as well.
Mm-hmm.
So just like the T-Rex, though, in the movie, she's tough. She's very scary. But if you play intelligently, you should be able to have a good chance against her.
She sounds like a lot of fun. So I can't wait to check out the T-Rex. I love big, nasty miniatures, and she sounds big and nasty and beautiful.
It's just a great looking miniature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nasty in a good way,
Yeah, sure.
All right. Before I let you go, I gotta ask you, because we are a Star Wars channel here. Got a favorite Star Wars movie? What's your favorite Star Wars film?
I do. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I like all the movies. I even don't mind the prequels too much. Certainly I enjoyed watching them with my kids. Let's put it that way. I like the new ones. I didn't get caught up in all the, brouhaha about, which ones. I thought they were all pretty good overall. I didn't mind the ending, the most recent one. But my favorite one of all was Rogue One.
Okay, excellent
Because
choice.
it was like old school, but it's sort of like what we do. It was like an old school Star Wars movie, but with modern like CGI and great direction and all that stuff, and great actors, great cast. I really liked how they found a way to weave all these like Easter eggs in to stitch everything together. It was really clever. I like just those types of movies about a ragtag, like a Dirty Dozen style movie about like underdogs pulling off a suicide mission. I thought that was just fun in general. Yeah, so I really liked that one, and I love the ending. It was very. I mean, I was super excited when I saw how they pulled off the ending where they tied it into episode 4. That was very cool.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
think
a
that's
great
my
answer.
pick.
No, a great answer, and it definitely does. You're right. It synergizes with kind of what you guys do too. So, no, yeah, it's a fantastic movie. My only problem with it is I always tend to fast forward to the last like 40 minutes or so. So
Sure.
I always skip the first 2/3 of the movie when I watch it. So I feel like
Yeah,
I'm only watching less than half of
I
less
can
than
see
half of a
that.
film.
Sure.
All right. Well, uh, Justin, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I'm going to let you go, but if you guys watching want to find out more, be sure to check the links. You're going to see you'll find out their Discord as well as the Restoration Games page, and you can submit a character if you'd like. All right. Well, that's about it. Thank you again, Justin, and
Thank you.
may the force be with you.
Thanks.